So, the good news for today is that overall, especially in developed countries like the United States, our air quality has improved. And this is mainly because the EPA, along with the states, are monitoring outdoor air quality. We talked about the six major outdoor air pollutants before, and those six are also considered criteria pollutants. And these are the pollutants that the EPA monitors closely for every state. They're the same pollutants, all six, except for instead of VOCs, tropospheric ozone replaces VOCs as one of the criteria pollutants. The rest are the same as we talked about yesterday: carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, particulate matter, lead, nitrogen dioxide, and then instead of VOCs, we have tropospheric ozone, which is considered one of the criteria pollutants. But tropospheric ozone, like we'll talk about in a minute, is actually created in part by VOCs. So the EPA monitors all six of these criteria pollutants, and there is a maximum concentration that's allowed. These national ambient air quality standards that are set by the EPA. Unfortunately, the states often fail at least one, usually two or more of these air quality standards, but at least having these standards in place really helps to reduce a lot of these air pollutants. So we already talked about the other five of the criteria pollutants when we talked about the six major pollutants yesterday. However, we didn't mention tropospheric ozone, again, because that wasn't one of our six pollutants, but it is one of the six criteria pollutants that the EPA is constantly monitoring. So tropospheric ozone is not a primary pollutant, and that's probably why it is the pollutant that most frequently exceeds EPA standards. It's very hard to monitor because it is not directly released as a primary pollutant. It is a secondary pollutant. And it's because it is a combination of VOCs, which are primary pollutants, but also from nitrogen oxides, again, primary pollutants. But it's when those two combine in the atmosphere with sunlight and heat. And so this results in what we call tropospheric ozone. And tropospheric ozone is no bueno. It basically causes respiratory problems. It can harm tissue. And it also is the major contributor of smog, specifically photochemical smog. So tomorrow we're going to be talking a little bit more about smog, the two main types of smog: industrial smog and photochemical smog. But tropospheric ozone is that main contributor of photochemical smog, the photochemical being sunlight, and then the other chemicals, nitrogen oxides and VOCs, that contribute to tropospheric ozone. So you've probably heard of the ozone layer, and the ozone layer is, of course, good. The ozone layer is what prevents UV radiation from coming in from outer space, and it basically blocks a lot of the UV radiation. Well, the ozone layer, if you remember, is in the stratosphere. So stratospheric ozone is good. Tropospheric ozone is bad. So we want that ozone in the stratosphere. We do not want tropospheric ozone. So in this chart, you're basically seeing the percent difference from health and safety standards. And you can see that over time, pretty much all of these criteria pollutants have decreased. But if you can see over this standard at 0%, the one that exceeds the standards for the most part, obviously, is tropospheric ozone. So tropospheric ozone is the one that's typically exceeding these standards across the board. But air quality overall is definitely better than it has been for at least a generation. And again, in part, that's because of these strict EPA regulations. So today, our biggest problem are these new air pollutants, which are particularly our greenhouse gas emissions. That's what we need to focus on. In addition, obviously, still focus on those criteria pollutants, but really we need the EPA to be able to regulate our greenhouse gas emissions, namely carbon dioxide and methane. So even though air quality has improved overall, like this says, many Americans live in areas where criteria pollutants still reach unhealthy levels. Still in LA, even though the air quality has increased tremendously, they still violate these national standards for 5 of the 6 criteria pollutants on a regular basis. And it's not only LA. On this map, you can see the different states and some of their major cities, and these criteria pollutants, right? This shows you over time how they've pretty much all gone down, but see how they're really high in certain parts of California. Look at Pittsburgh over here, very high. Even Tampa. Look at Miami, very low, thankfully. But I believe, like even in Georgia, they typically exceed the standards for many of the criteria pollutants. So even though much of the focus of controlling emissions is on cities, because that's typically where these emissions are the highest because of the number of vehicles and the amount of industry, but we also have outdoor air pollution in rural communities as well. And a lot of these come from farms and feedlots. And feedlots, of course, feedlots where they raise cattle and chickens, and they're in these dense concentrations. There's all kinds of dust that's produced, of course, methane from the cattle and the other animals, hydrogen sulfide, ammonia from the urine. And not only do they, of course, create these horrible odors, but they also, a lot of these are, cause respiratory problems. And so a lot of these people living or working nearby have high rates of respiratory illness. You also have, of course, airborne pesticides from farms, which can also cause cancer and other respiratory illnesses in these rural communities. In addition, you still have industrial pollutants that come from the cities and drift to the rural areas. They don't just obviously stay over the cities. Now, in addition to those criteria pollutants, we also have another group of air pollutants called toxic air pollutants. And these, again, no good. They can range in causing all kinds of problems, from cancer, reproductive defects, neurological, developmental, immune system issues, respiratory problems. And the EPA tries to regulate these as well. They regulate about 187 different toxic air pollutants that come from anywhere from metal smelting, sewage treatment, farming, industry. And these include things like all different types of heavy metal, especially mercury, which we have mentioned before, also VOCs, methylene chloride. So these are some of our toxic air pollutants that the EPA regulates. And again, not good, but the good thing is that these have decreased as well. But even so, toxic air pollutants are still cause cancer in 1 out of 20,000 Americans. So something we still obviously need to look at, get under control, maybe have increased EPA regulations for some of these toxic air pollutants. And the Clean Air Act, which we talked about yesterday, very important piece of legislation for this chapter. They've helped reduce emissions by more than 42% since 1990. So this is an example of how environmental legislation, environmental policy, extremely important, and along with obviously the enforcement of the Environmental Protection Agency to help keep our air clean and prevent cancer, respiratory illnesses, etc. So this map is just showing you where cancer risk from toxic air pollutants is a problem. And you can see even in Florida, a lot of the East Coast, we have a problem with these toxic air pollutants, and a lot of them are coming from industry in the Northeast. Now, we mentioned that we have been able to decrease a lot of these criteria pollutants, even some toxic air pollutants, even though obviously we need to do more work. What we really need to look at now is trying to regulate greenhouse gases as an actual air pollutant. Most greenhouse gases are natural. CO2 is a natural gas in the atmosphere, methane's natural, but humans are, of course, contributing to increase greenhouse gases. And when there's too many and it's actually causing issues like climate change, now these gases can be considered air pollutants. And if they're air pollutants, they should obviously be regulated under the Clean Air Act. So Congress failed to pass legislation to regulate greenhouse gas emissions. But in 2011, the EPA did introduce standards for cars and trucks, and even some of the newer coal-fired power plants that were being built. They put some standards that they wanted them to meet in terms of sulfur dioxide, of course, but also for carbon dioxide. The Supreme Court allowed the EPA to regulate greenhouse gas emissions. Of course, this did not go over well with the coal and petrochemical industries, and they actually sued to stop the EPA from regulating these greenhouse gases as air pollutants. The good news is the courts did uphold the EPA's regulations. And CO2 emissions have actually decreased slightly in the United States, about 12% from 2007 to 2012. Not so much because of regulations of the EPA, but simply because of the economic recession that was kind of going on at the beginning of this time. Kind of like now, our air quality has improved tremendously simply because a lot of businesses and industries are closed. So that kind of happened because of the economic recession, but also from burning more natural gas instead of coal. We just turned to more natural gas because of fracking and less coal, and that has actually created this decrease in our CO2 emissions, again, without really trying. Also, we have more efficient cars. So more efficient cars like hybrids and electric cars, and so this has helped to decrease our CO2 as well. Now, where we have the biggest problem today is in industrializing or developing nations. Again, they are one step kind of behind us, and their outdoor air pollution is getting worse and worse instead of getting better. And this is because they're industrializing. They have a growing number of factories, a growing number of power plants, and they're really emphasizing economic growth and development and not pollution control. And unfortunately, in many of these countries like China, they're kind of paying the price for that right now. Even other countries, they have a problem with outdoor air pollution, not the ones that are industrializing, but they are developing countries. They're still burning a lot of traditional fuel, and this is causing a lot of particulate matter and soot in that atmosphere. So we mentioned Mexico City in our case study. They're suffering a variety of health impacts from this heavily polluted air, especially the fact that this pollution from Mexico City tends to hang over the city when you have that thermal inversion we spoke about. Today, however, China has the world's worst air pollution out of any country currently. And again, this is because they are developing very rapidly. They're really focused on economic development. They have the second highest amount of coal behind the United States, so they're burning a lot of that coal. More and more people are driving in China. More industry means more power plants, more factories, and this is causing over 300,000 premature deaths a year simply from air pollution. You can see in this picture, I believe this is Beijing. Sometimes the air pollution is so bad that they can't even go outside without masks. Sometimes the air pollution is so bad they can't go outside at all, and they're kind of in lockdown. That sounds familiar. But because of air pollution. And so they actually have to stay inside. Businesses are closed, schools are closed, and the pollution just, hangs over the city. And it's not only Beijing, but many of these developing cities in China. So we actually have the result, which is called the Asian brown cloud, or atmospheric brown cloud. That sounds kind of better. That actually is this 2-mile thick layer of pollution that basically hangs over southern Asia. Kind of grows and shrinks depending on the time of year, but you can actually see this from outer space. Like you can see this from satellite view. this brown cloud that is over part of Asia. And it actually is reducing crop productivity because it is so thick, it blocks sunlight. So it's actually blocking sunlight from reaching the ground, and it's decreasing the amount of crops they can grow. It increases flooding and just creates all kinds of other problems like that, in addition to obviously premature deaths because of respiratory illnesses from this pollution.